Day 80 of 365 days of meditation. So 80 days, yeah. I mean, it'll be 100 in no time at all. Just seems to be kind of flying along right now, which is fine. I got up this morning at about, I don't remember, I think around 8-ish, and it's Sunday today. And I got up around 8, meditated for an hour. I did have an appointment this morning, so what I do when I have a time limit is I put some music on, my headphones on, and if I'm not doing a guided meditation that I know is an hour long or 45 or 50 or an hour and a half, then what I'll do is I'll put music on, and if it's, a YouTube video or something on YouTube Music and it's 4 hours long, I'll just slide it along until there's an hour left or an hour and 5 minutes left or however much time I have to meditate, an hour and 15 minutes. And then I know once the music ends that I can, take my time and slowly come out of the meditation. I have a sort of a process I go through to wrap up my meditation. It's the same one I do every time, more or less. So, yeah, I give myself about 5-10 minutes after the music ends to wrap up my meditation. I do prefer not to set a time limit and to just give myself a couple hours, and then if I want to do it for an hour and 15 or an hour and a half or, hour and 40, I'll just sort of come out of it in my own time. That's ideal. I can usually tell when it's been about an hour, and I can usually tell again when it's been about an hour and a half. I kind of go into cycles. After about an hour, I'm kind of gone through a cycle of being in deep, and then I kind of come out of the meditation. And then if I sort of recommit, I'll drop back in, and then about a half an hour later, I'll kind of come out of it again. So I can sort of guesstimate how long I've been in anyway. But if I do have a hard stop for some reason, then I'll sort of use the end of some music that's playing as the signal that it's time to come out. I find that's a relaxing way to come out. So other than that, not a lot to report from today's practice. One of the other things, I guess I'll say first, if you are struggling with your mental health, talk to somebody. It can be the best thing you do to kickstart the process of better understanding what you're going through, understanding that, you're not the only one, and that there's hope, and there's treatments and things you can do that will get you better, and often a lot faster than you think is possible. When you're in a bad state. Other than that, I will say that I do recognize that if it's a child that's struggling with their mental health, it may be difficult for them to come forward and talk to somebody. I know for myself, when I was a child and a teenager, I wasn't able to take that step and come forward. In hindsight, I wish I had, but I didn't. It didn't happen until I was an adult. And so I would say that if you are a parent, and I had a conversation with a parent recently, and they mentioned that they were going to get some help for their child, take them to see a counselor. And I think it's important to look for the signs. And from my own experience, it seems to start with anxiety and often kind of really being in your own head and stuck in your own head, kind of worrying a lot, thinking a lot. And, especially if you're catastrophizing or you got negative self-talk as a kid. And then that can lead to eventually just constant state of low-level stress because of the chatter going on in your own head. And eventually you kind of hit a wall with the stress, and then that you kind of crash and burn, and that leads to that sort of depressive state. So sort of the anxiety and the negativity, and then eventually a crash into depression. That was my own experience anyway. From talking to some other people, that's been their experience. So I'd say the early sign might be sort of an anxious child, a child who's spending a lot of time sort of stuck in their own head. You can see the worry on their face often, kind of the anxiety, the overthinking. And definitely if they hit a point where they're feeling depressed, maybe no longer wanting to be involved in things that usually they love doing or brought them joy or fun, or they like to play, things they like to do for play, or starting to sleep a lot more, maybe just sort of withdrawing socially, withdrawing from the family socially, etc. I mean, of course, when you're talking a teenager, they'll often want to sleep more, and they'll kind of want to withdraw from the family socially anyway to become more independent. So it can be hard to spot. I would definitely say that it can be definitely hard to spot. But if you do start to see signs, it may not be possible for that kid to feel comfortable to come forward. And so I would say, as the parent, then maybe step in, have a conversation with them. I don't think you'd be able to be the one who could provide treatment. You're way too close to them, obviously, as having them as your child. But you can have a conversation with them, see where they're at, and never hesitate to reach out and get some help for them. If it's your own child and they're quite young, definitely you can take them to see a counselor or a therapist, and they can have a conversation and build a rapport. And I know there's some stigma around it, but it's probably the best thing you could do for them, because if they're in habitual ways of thinking that are unhealthy, and they're forming those habits, they're wiring their brain in that way to make that way of thinking a lot easier, whether it's catastrophizing or negative self-talk or whatever it might be. The longer they do it before they break that cycle, the harder it is to break that cycle, and it can persist into adulthood, and it just gets worse with time. So it's probably one of the most amazing gifts you could ever give a child is the ability to, if they are struggling with their mental health, to get some help and break those cycles as early as possible. Yeah, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Be good to yourself. Have a great night.